Torah Or, Chayei, page Tez Zayin, second column, middle of the page. Okay, now Rabbi explains how is it possible for neshama, which is a limited being, to understand infinite godliness. He said that's the garments of Torah mitzvahs that the neshama does. And he says, now we can understand why Avos Hashem is what the essence of loving Hashem means. So he says, when you have a meditation into the greatness of Hashem, in Sukkot Zimra and Shema, and then you create this love to Hashem, so then the person becomes bound, because love, by definition, means you become one. That's the definition of love. So you become one with this connection with Hashem that you don't want to be separated even for a second during the day. And he says, in the middle of the column, Tezayin, the second column. That this is what the means. You accept the yoke of Hashem, Hashem Echad. And then you say, V'yohavta. What do you say? V'yohavta Hashem Elokecha. What does it mean, love God, your God? It's redundant. It means, V'yohavta, you should love Hashem to such an extent that Hashem, the infinite level, the supernatural level, becomes Elokecha, becomes your nature. You should constantly be connected to Hashem with this meditation of bittul and the way worlds really don't exist. To this that gives him life and sustenance. But because the physical body is not able to handle it, because we're still a body in the Yetzer Hara, the person should make this firm resolution in his mind in Krishma, the concept of limit atayra ba'amr v'dibarta ba. He's just explaining the Shema. You meditate into Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That worlds don't exist. The only thing that exists is Hashem. Then you will love Hashem to such an extent that the supernatural becomes your nature. That means you're constantly with it. How do you continue this? How do you keep it up during the day? That's through learning Torah. V'dibarta bam. Why? Because anushenav shelekis. The God is so basaka b'Torah. When a person learns Torah, nasa yichud amiti im ha'Torah ve'eraisa kudshebrichu kol echad mamish. Then you become one. The Rebbe explains in Tanya that seichel, understanding, has a unique quality to it. Normally, if the water is in the glass is not in the water. In Gashmis, you can't have A and B simultaneously in A. The only thing which is the exception to this rule is knowledge, seichel. Because when I learn math, so I have the math in my head, but while I'm learning math, I can't learn anything else, because my mind is in the subject matter, which is unique. My brain is in the math, and the math is in my brain, which represents a unity that Gashmias doesn't have it. So when a person studies Torah and he realizes that now I'm completely one with Hashem, I have Torah which is synonymous with Hashem in my head, I'm in learning, so therefore my brain is in the Torah, so the Torah is in the brain. So he says, and the person Torah dresses itself into the physical world. Therefore, when the person dresses his nefesh into the learning of this world, that causes that the source, not the neshama in the body, when the neshama that's in the body becomes completely preoccupied with learning, meaning becoming one with Hashem, that causes that l'mayla in the heavenly spheres, the source of the neshama, is also mislabish gamkim b'Torah shel l'mayla ad reima mayla, because there's Torah up there also. That means when a person down here learns Torah, connects to Torah, that causes that the neshama l'mayla, pre-body, meaning higher than body, also becomes united with the level of Torah up there, which is higher than worlds. Adreima mailas, v'nasa sham yichud gam, and you become one with Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining in a practical level like this. How does a person who's not davening a whole day, how do they keep this oneness with Hashem? They realize the only thing that exists is Hashem, and therefore the only thing I really want is godliness, because everything else is nothing and void and pust and vust, as they say in Yiddish. Teil v'vayu, it's mamish nothing. So he says you have the meditation of davening, but then davening is over. So then when you learn Torah v'dibarta bam, what happens is you become one with Hashem. That Hashem becomes one with you. And that causes that your neshama l'mayla, that's above the level of the body, becomes one with the level of Elokus. And therefore the person is united constantly an entire day with Hashem himself. Huh? Speak for yourself, yes. Most of us feel it. Those that don't are the minority. If you believe that, I'll show you a bridge. This is what it means when a person learns Hashem is learning opposite him. What does it mean Hashem is sitting and learning opposite him? It means you have this connection with Hashem not only down here, but even the level of Neshama L'mayla. And that's what the pasuk says. Hashem tzilcha. Hashem is your. It means Hashem is your shadow. Now, what's unique about a shadow is the shadow goes where you go. When you can't walk in the street and there's a shadow, you're casting a shadow onto the sidewalk. Yeah. The shadow. You don't go where the shadow goes. The shadow goes where you go. Now, if Hashem is tzilcha, David HaMelech says in Tillim, in the Shir HaMalos, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shade. Which means, what does it mean? Hashem is copying us. We call the shots, we learn, and then the Gemara says, when you learn, Hashem learns opposite you. That means that you're causing Hashem to become one with you. Yeah. God forbid you're dragging Hashem into dirt and mud and worse. And then Shema continues, I am God, your God who took you out of Mitzrayim. A person should not come with false humility. A person could come with false humility. Anything, the Yetzer Hara works in great ways. The Yetzer Hara, in order to stop us from doing what we need to do, will come with all the holy excuses. You're trying to learn Torah because who do you think you are anyway? You're a lowlife. How do you think you're able to learn Torah and mitzvahs? So Yetzer Hara is causing you to have bittul. But the bottom line is, then you think, how can I? So the pasuk says, that's on the Hashem Elokechem that took you out of Egypt. A person can come along and say, the person is still doing evil. How can he become one with Hashem and cause Hashem to become one with him? And the evil is still there completely by the person. He says, this is what you need to understand. Hashem takes us out of Egypt. Meaning, the nefesh will kiss me nefesh habamis shadayin lo sera b'peil mamish. He says like this: Hashem takes us out of Mitzrayim, means Hashem separates us from the bad.
Regardless of our
and he says, only unless if you didn't do bad. And he said, afilu rasha gamur. Even a person is a complete rasha. Mamshech benafsheh lekis. Nevertheless, when a person, even a rasha, learns Torah, Hashem is one with him. The pasuk says, "Until the rasha amar lekim." To the rasha, Hashem says, "Why? Who are you to talk my dinim, my laws?" The only problem with a real rasha is like the pasuk says. Hashem says to him, "You throw my words backwards," meaning you don't keep. So even the Alter say, even a rasha, that the Torah says in Tillim, or the rasha amar alikim, to the rasha Hashem says, who are you to talk Torah? Torah is kedusha. You're such a wicked person. It says you can't internalize it so much, but you still have it. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya when he speaks about the rasha at the end of Perek Yud Aleph. The Alter Rebbe says even the rasha gamur, that never regrets evil, completely evil. He says, the godliness of your nefesh leaves you, like it only, what's the Lashon? It's only hovering over you on top. What's the Alter Rebbe saying it's there? Because therefore you could still do tshuva. Because there's still the level of elokus within you. Yeah, it's not directly influencing because you threw it out. Your intentional rush, you never regret sinning. Yeah, but nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe says in time, it still remains above you, meaning it indirectly still affects you. Therefore, when you wake up to do tshuva, in a split second, that's all tshuva takes, then you
Ignite.
now you bring down that level of elokus back within you. And all tshuva takes is a second. To give an interesting mashal, you can have a chicken, it's all over the sand, and the body of the chicken is full of sand. And if you want to clean the chicken, it's going to take you, like each one. All of a sudden the chicken shakes itself, shakes the wings out, and the whole bird becomes clean. That means a person in 1 second flaps the wings, and he becomes completely clean. So he says, that's what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that even the Rosh Gomor, Mamish, the last word of Perek Yud Aleph. These pages are too thin. Yeah. At Shinistalik Mikir, but the guy is such a Rosh that the Kedusha left him and remains Makif all of Milmaila. But it still is there Milmaila. Makif all of Milmaila, it's still hovering over the person from above. That means, and therefore he says, Hakol Be'asar Shchinta Shaya. That's why even 10 Rishoyim, the Shechina is resting. Either all Rishoyim, how could the Shechina be there? Huh? The Pintaligid. Okay.
That's doing mitzvah or learning to is he at that moment?
At that moment, he's connected to Hashem. At that time, the Russia who takes the first minion takes a nickel because of inflation. It used to be a penny. Now they take a nickel and don't interrupt. They take a nickel and they put it into the pushka. At that moment, they become a merkava to chesed of Atzilus. They become bottled because tzedakah originates chesed. They originates in chesed of Atzilus. Like the Alter Rebbe said in this Maamar, the other Maamar, that the kedusha still comes. It still comes down. And therefore, the lowest world, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanyos, is connected to the highest world because it's ishtaush, link and the link and the link.
In 10 cents, that twice the nickels.
Shh.
Which guy's gonna be full of pennies tomorrow?
Huh?
Which guy's gonna be full of pennies tomorrow?
Yeah.
Today is a very important day.
Why?
The rabbi used to make fun of us with penny. Today he went to nickels. Thank you. Oh, no.
I'm telling you, you're getting better. No? A Jew has to keep getting better. Okay, now the Alter Rebbe says like this. In the concept of the brachas, we say, Baruch Atah Hashem. How do we make a bracha? Baruch Atah Hashem, yeah? Baruch, what is, now the Alter Rebbe, we'll learn many times the definition according to Chassidus, what the bracha means. Baruch hu hamshacha v'ribui. Bracha means to bring down. Shi'avaya, which is the level of symptom, is pashtus. In other words, Baruch Atah Hashem. We're bringing down that Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem, which represents, again, Yud is Tzimtzum, and then broadening, and then Hamshacha, the four worlds. Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina, Vav is the six spheres, and Hey is Malchus, yeah? So what does Baruch Atah Hashem mean? That Hashem, we're bringing down the Atah into Havaya, meaning in the level of intellect and emotions, we feel the essence of Hashem, which is infinitely greater than that. Like not Gan Eden, which is only the ray of the Shechina, we actually feel, by doing a mitzvah with a bracha, we actually feel the essence, that it should be atal and nechach is galus. But what's the problem? Because the body covers and darkens and conceals, but only when Mashiach comes will be as galus elokus in a way. Then, when everybody will see elokus, then everybody will be completely nullified to Hashem bittul. He says, when Mashiach comes, the real bittul will exist. But we got to practice. So now we do fake bittul. Like in the Shemona Esrei, you say, Baruch, you bend your knees. Ata, you bow. Why are we bowing? The bowing is a sign of bittul. It's not real. It's not real. We're not bottle. He says, it's bittul bechitzainis. Bechriya veishtachva bereisha kareya kareya bebaruch. So in other words, now, so to speak, we're faking it. Fake it until you make it, right? So now we're faking it until we really make it when Mashiach comes. And then he says, what are these other brachas in Shemona Esrei? We say, Reifei Chelim, he heals the sick. V'goyel Yisrael mevarich hashanim, those are kelim lebchinas hamshach his galus elukus. It is a level of bittul, that they are the vessels of Hashem's functioning. In other words, when Hashem reveals himself, the sick are healed. When Hashem, like by Avraham Avinu, Hashem came to visit the sick, he became better. Hashem reveals himself, so then we have parnasa. When we have Hashem reveals himself, the geula, we have a redemption.
What about the brachot that mitzvot that don't have any brach?
The mitzvah itself accomplishes it. Most positive mitzvahs have a bracha. There's very few exceptions. Any mitzvah that's dependent on somebody else, you can't make a bracha. That's dependent on somebody else. The classic example is why, when you put a nickel into a dime, we're moving up, you even get a dime into the pushka, why didn't you make a bracha? You're doing a mitzvah tzedakah. It's a very important mitzvah. We say Baruch Atah, we should say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Malchei Mashiach Kedshanu B'Mitzvayis V'Tzivanu Litain Penny, Litain Tzedakah. 1 minute. So the answer is in halacha. Rashba says, why don't you make a bracha and tzedakah? Because you have to make a bracha before you do the mitzvah. So you have a poor man, you're about to give him a tzedakah, yeah? And then the guy says, no, I'm not taking it. It's not enough. He said, I'm not taking it. So then you made a bracha in vain. So halachically, it's the same thing with kabbalah sevicha v'simacha. If you're giving your father a cup of tea, you're doing kibbut aveim, right? Why don't you make a bracha? Sheksham is face on the chabit aveim, whatever. Or kibbut aveim. So the answer is, you might want to give your father a cup of tea. He'll say, I don't want it. So your intentions were good, but lapel, you didn't do the mitzvah.
What if he asked for it?
It doesn't matter. He could still change his mind.
Yeah.
So I'm saying because then it might be a bracha. I'm talking mitzvah halacha. Mitzvah halacha, the reason why there's no bracha and a lot of mitzvahs is only because they're dependent on somebody else. Any positive mitzvah, maybe one or whatever, but normally any positive mitzvah that you do, you make a bracha. Unless if it's dependent on somebody else, then you can't make a bracha.
So the same hamshacha is...
It comes through without the bracha. And he says, you have to bow down enough that you see a coin again opposite your heart. Meaning, the primary revelation of Elokus should be in the mind. Which is even Isser, meaning it's a very small coin. So in other words, what is the concept of a bracha? The concept of a bracha, and this is he said before, is the concept of Shema. Meditation, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, is to bring it into the Ahavta, and then to bring a V'dibarta Bo. So the purpose of all this is to bring down the revelations and the essence of Hashem into our day-to-day living. And he says that's the concept of a bracha. We're bringing down the level of Ata, the essence of Hashem, you, that means the essence, and we're bringing that down into Hashem in a way of a bracha. And that causes Gol Yisrael, Refa'enu, and all those things. And he says the ultimate is that it shouldn't remain the meditation in the heart of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It has to come v'yohavta. It has to come down. If somebody says to somebody, I love you very much in my heart, but that's where it starts and ends. You don't do anything, you don't care about them, I love you in my heart. I mean, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. The main thing is to come into action. That the ray of Hashem is on heaven and earth. That even the ray and the manifestation of the Chayei which comes into the world. The ultimate purpose is to have this dira b'tachtainim. And the last of action, meaning action, is where it originates in the highest levels of thought. To wedge the end in the beginning, and that's why it says Eretz Nivras Tchila. There's a big argument in the Gemara between Bisham and Beis Hillel. What did Hashem create first, heaven or earth? So, one opinion says, it says in Chumash, B'reishit bara Elokim es hashamayim v'asoret. Hashem created heaven and earth. The problem is at the end of creation, it says B'yem aseis Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim. First eretz and then shamayim. Says arguably Bisham Beis Hillel, what did Hashem create first? One opinion says shamayim, one opinion says Oret, based on the two psukim. So the question, how can you have an argument in the fact? So Chassidus explains they're both right. The ultimate purpose of creation is eretz, dira b'tachteinim, earth, physical mitzvahs. What was actually created first? Shamayim. In other words, shamayim represents spiritual, others represents physical. The ultimate purpose of creation is the physical eretz. B'yem aseis Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim. That's the ultimate purpose. That's Beis Hillel's opinion. Beis Shammai, which goes by the potential, not by the actual. So Beis Shammai says Shamayim nivra tchila. Heaven was created first. But they're both right. It's like the same argument that Hashem created the world in Nisan or in Tishrei. The two opinions. When did he do it? The answer is, he actually created the world in Tishrei. What's the purpose of it? Nisan, to reveal godliness in the world.
This mashal Shamayim is Muslim. Is it Muslim or is it Kochavim?
Both. It represents.